Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to unpack the fascinating science and the actual science-based protocols for living a truly high-functioning life. Today, we're focusing on some absolute game-changing insights from Dr. Elena Vance. She's an expert in clinical psychology and neurobiology, and she tackles something that affects, well, almost every single one of us: chronic indecision. So if you've ever felt totally paralyzed when trying to make a choice, you're in the right place. Okay, let's dive into this. Why are you stuck? Man, that is a heavy question, isn't it? Just think about a recent time when you felt like you were completely paralyzed, just wandering in the dark, wondering, am I really becoming the best version of myself, or am I just spinning my wheels here? Most of us kind of assume this chronic indecision is a moral failing, right? Or maybe we just think we lack willpower. But Dr. Vance's research reveals something that is literally incredibly freeing. It's not a lack of willpower at all. It's actually a biological misfire. That brings us to section 1, the root of indecision, and what we call eclipsed strivings. Basically, this is what happens when our natural, forward-facing goals are completely hijacked by our own unconscious defenses. It's like your internal GPS gets totally scrambled. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we can visualize the mind. Imagine your mind as this massively powerful biological supercomputer. It's literally running millions of processes a second, right beneath the surface. And within this supercomputer, you have these internal cupboards of behavior and focus. So chronic indecision, it isn't a lack of willpower. It's essentially a failure to activate the correct cupboard within the system. You're simply opening the wrong mental doors. And that leads us to section 2, the unconscious iceberg, where 95% of everything is happening way, way beneath the surface. We all know the whole iceberg metaphor, sure, but neurologically speaking, the disparity is absolutely staggering. You see that tiny 5% sticking out of the water? Yeah, that's your conscious mind, just 5%. The massive 95% lurking underneath is your unconscious mind. And here's the kicker. It is the thing actually steering the ship. It's dictating how you react, what you're afraid of, and ultimately exactly why you hesitate. So what exactly is that giant 95% doing down there? Well, it's firing off unconscious defense mechanisms. These get triggered by fear, confusion, and frankly, the despair of making a wrong choice. And this shows up in our daily behavior as avoidance or just endless rationalization. Think about it. You might reflexively turn away from a completely new opportunity, like, say, striking up a casual conversation at the grocery store, or speaking up with a great idea in a business meeting, and you don't even notice you're doing it. Why? Because your unconscious mind has literally tagged that perfectly normal everyday interaction as a massive risk and just shut it down to protect you. So, how in the world do we actually fix this? Let's move to section 3, activating your self-awareness by auditing those cupboards. It's time to take what is hidden in the unconscious and drag it right out into the conscious light. Here is where Dr. Vance suggests a really incredible, highly effective protocol called mirror meditation. Now, it starts with spending just a few minutes simply looking at your own reflection. The whole core of this practice is using that quiet time to anchor the realization of the me or the I, really building that deep self-awareness. From that anchored place, you can finally, safely take responsibility for your choices. And step 4, you audit those mental cupboards we talked about to see what is actually salient, what is really driving your actions right now. And this brilliantly illustrates what happens when you open those cupboards. What do you actually see in there? Are you focusing on that relentless 4-lane highway of negative self-talk that's always telling you you're just not good enough? Or are you focused on your forward-facing strivings? You know, those big, exciting goals that pull you into a better future. The reality is your brain absolutely requires those forward-facing objectives to actually feel a sense of peace. To make sure we're choosing that forward path, we get into section 4, unleashing the generative drive, which is truly the engine of creation. Let's define this really clearly. The generative drive is our innate, uniquely human desire to build, to explore, and to just make things better. It is literally hardwired into us. And tapping into this very specific drive is the ultimate science-based antidote to that paralyzing mental friction we've been talking about all along. But of course, here is exactly where we get tripped up. When you're feeling completely stuck in chronic indecision, it's almost always because your other drives are dialed to the totally wrong setting. For example, a misfiring aggressive drive. That leads straight to destructive envy. Or an incorrectly dialed pleasure drive. That drops you into a completely demoralized state where you just feel like giving up. These misfires essentially throw a blanket over your true generative drive, masking it completely. So the crucial point is exactly what Dr. Vance says here. Treat your mental health with the same science logic you apply to physical health. If you want more endurance, you get on a bike. It's so true, right? If you want more decision-making power, you can't just sit around and wish for it. You have to actively audit your character structure and intentionally prune away those unhealthy defenses that are constantly leading you astray. It is exactly like training a physical muscle. And when you actually put in that work and align your neurobiological structure with your function, it blossoms into these two incredibly vital states, agency and gratitude. Agency is that active, buzzing awareness of your ability to project yourself into the world and actually affect change. And gratitude, that's the active appreciation for simply being alive and capable of trying in the first place. Put those two together, and honestly, you become unstoppable. Which brings us to our final protocol in Section 5, priming the pump to create rocket fuel. This is your daily routine to shatter chronic indecision once and for all. This whole protocol is about shifting gears from just being a passive observer, like staring blankly out a window, to active creation. Step 1, start your day with a cognitively difficult task. Maybe that's reading a really complex paper, or even getting outside for some heavy physical yard work. Because by completing it, Step 2 kicks in. You prove to your brain that you can in fact move from point A to B. That small win, it generates literal chemical rocket fuel in your brain in the form of neurobiological hope. And finally, Step 4, you use that fresh fuel to make your very next decision exponentially easier. Doing this creates a massive narrative shift inside your mind. You transition away from that endless cycle of kicking the can down the road, which we all know just breeds anxiety and total paralysis, and instead you start actively paving a brand new path. That mental shift is exactly how you move into a lasting state of real peace, contentment, and delight. All right, now it's time for action. If this explainer was transformative for you, please make sure to subscribe and leave us a review so we can help other people find these protocols. And definitely check out the description below for the zero-cost PDF roadmap covering the pillars of the self that we discussed today. Go ahead and use it to audit your own cupboards, follow the clues of your behavior, and finally activate that generative drive that's just waiting inside you. I want to leave you with this one final provocative question to chew on as you step back into your daily life. What will you build today? Seriously, stop focusing on all the things you cannot control. Audit your cupboards, prune those old defenses, and go pave a new path. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.